was once a time that Bomberman was larger than life, and he knew it. I mean, just look at this box, it's huge! That's because this wasn't just a game, it was a package deal. This Bomberman Party Pack for Super Nintendo is one of the first to support 4-player gameplay. The box is so big because it included an add-on that allowed up to 4 players known as the multi-tap. Upon examination, you'll notice that there are more than 3 additional ports on this thing. That's because there are actually games that supported 5 players, such as Madden and NBA Live. There's even a 6-player game in Japan called Battlecross. It's like a mix between Super Off-Road and, ironically, Bomberman. Believe it or not, there are dozens of games that are compatible with the multi-tap. Most of them are sports and wrestling games, but 2 RPGs utilized it as well. Secret of Mana supported up to 3 players, and Lord of the Rings apparently supports 5 and can support 8 if it's played on an emulator. But when it comes to the highest quality of SNES multiplayer madness, people knew Bomberman was king. It has simple and addictive gameplay that has remained the tried and true formula in its current installments. But it's the charm and beautiful 16-bit graphics that make these Super Bomberman games so memorable. Aside from its famous multiplayer, Bomberman also had a great adventure mode. You blast your way through blocks and a variety of bad guys. Each world gets more difficult with faster and tougher enemies. It's important to keep your cool and play smart since only one hit costs you a life. There's a variety of very helpful power-ups to help you on your way. When you start, you can only drop 1 bomb at a time, and its explosion range is only 1 block long. For every bomb upgrade you grab, it adds 1 more that you can drop, and you can get up to 9 bombs at once. There's a fire upgrade that works the same way, making your explosions grow up to 9 times their original size. There are several other nifty power-ups like the boxing glove and the boot. The boxing glove allows you to punch your bombs, which makes trapping your enemies easier as they hop walls. The boot lets you kick a bomb and it slides along the floor. This also helps prevent you from trapping yourself since you can kick the bomb away. 2 other power-ups for your bomb are the remote bomb and power bomb. The remote bomb allows you to detonate upon command, and the power bomb's explosions can blow through multiple blocks and enemies at once. Each world ends with a boss fight. They're large, exciting, and give you a nice change of pace. Some of the bosses can be pretty difficult too. Mostly because you unfortunately lose your power-ups such as the glove, boot, and remote control bomb when you die once, and if you get a game over, you're back to laying 1 bomb at a time with the smallest explosion. Dying once does not make you restart the level, just game overs do. It's a good thing you can retry the levels endlessly. At the start of each level, and when you come back from death, you blink with invincibility. But for whatever reason, the invincibility period is really long in this game. It was easy to find a major exploit when it comes to this. You can continuously lay bombs while walking in the explosions and go all psycho kamikaze for a good 10 seconds, which is enough time to clear most of, if not all of the enemies. It comes in handy when getting revenge against the bosses as well. My Super Bomberman experience did not start with the first, however. I played Super Bomberman 2 for almost 20 years before playing its prequel. This is where they truly got it right. It blew me away with its pure fun and awesome music. I can still remember my mom coming home with my older brother from Hollywood Video and asking him what he rented. It was totally awesome, and it wasn't long until all of the neighborhood kids were in our basement, waiting for their turn to play. You could choose from a bunch of different colored bombers, which made you feel different from the rest. You could go 2-on-2. There are a ton of power-ups and a ton of stages that had unique elements to them, changing the fights and strategies considerably. We didn't know of the multi-tap and rotated with only 2 of us playing at a time. We used to wish with all of our might that the other 2 computers could be us. But if we had a multi-tap, there's no doubt it would have been life-changing. Super Bomberman 2 picks up where the first left off, but with a bigger and much better adventure. You are no longer confined to a single screen for each level. There's finally scrolling and a lot more going on. There's a much better variety of enemies. No longer were most of them just sprite swaps. They had lots of different attacks and patterns. There are many new stage hazards like magnets that pull your bombs, hotspots that max out your explosions, furnaces that send a deadly zap down its electrical line if you put a bomb inside, trampoline pads, human cannons, lights that change enemy behavior, and other fun, wacky stuff. Plus, the old punching glove power-up evolved into the glove, giving you the ability to pick up, carry, and throw your bombs. You can get clever with this, like throwing it off screen to one side as it bounces onto the other. The bosses are new and improved. Now there are 2 at the end of each world. First, you're face to face with the enemy, which makes for a frantic and fast-paced fight. The boss's bombs have different attributes, like the magnet and heart bombs can move, while the red pepper and plasma bombs are constantly being thrown with massive explosions, and so on. The AI can be tricky, making you work for every hit. Once you defeat them, they retreat to the second boss fight, where they climb into their giant robots for a final battle. Like the first game's big bosses, they're fun, and each one is a different kind of fight. There is immense satisfaction completing the world, watching the giant robot burn down in defeat. Looking back, this may sound weird or barbaric, but I would always run up to them after the fight while they're on the ground and lay bombs to put them to rest. No mercy. It has fewer levels than the prequel, but it's a prime example of quality over quantity. It's not just about blowing up all of your enemies on a single screen, but exploring each world's new mechanics, little puzzles, taking on new enemies, and blowing up the proper switches to get the exit door to open. They're both fun games to speedrun, as neither are very long. You can make the quickest work if you manage to hold on to the glove, boot, and remote bombs. Overall, Super Bomberman 1 and 2 are both great games that make an example of the fun factor. They're games that can be played mostly with one button, but there's enough going on to keep your attention through the entire adventure, and they're timeless multiplayer classics. There are definitely some improvements made to the sequel, such as a more fleshed out adventure, while there are just a couple of missing features. First drawback is that it doesn't have a co-op adventure anymore. Keep in mind, I played the second one first, so when I found out the prequel had co-op, I was wondering what happened to it. I imagine it's gone because the levels are a lot bigger and maybe the scrolling was too much for 2 players. Not many series regress in that kind of way, so it's a bit odd. Co-op is something typically added, not taken away. They have a couple of other minor differences, such as the first game has sound effects for the steps Bomberman takes, while the second one does not. They treat dying differently too. If you die in the first, you start up again right there, but the second game starts the levels over, requiring perfect runs in order to pass. As far as presentation goes, the graphics are great and attractive in both games. Musically, they're quite different from each other. The first uses the Bomberman classic theme, but each world has its own unique rendition. The sequel has new themes for each world, and they're all pretty good. I enjoy the first and the fifth the most, but they're all definitely memorable. The multiplayer music is fun and catchy in both too. I recommend playing both games because they each offer something different. There are 3 more sequels only released overseas, which I would like to review at some point. At first glance, pretty surprised that the graphics have seemed to regress even further, but definitely curious to see what else the series has to offer. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next review.